Mmm, that's good. Oh my. There's no sleeping tonight. Oh, that stuff's crazy good. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. There'll be more on that later. Well, good morning, guys. I got something amazing to tell you, and it comes from this here maple tree. But first, let's have a look on how to identify maple trees. Is this a maple tree? No, it's not. This is a cedar tree, and you can tell by this. It's a coniferous tree. It holds its needles or little things all the time, and it's got a bark that it's kind of furry. And it's got that distinct smell. It smells like cedar. I don't know, you have to smell it to really understand what cedar smells like. But this, not a maple tree. Is this a maple tree? Well, no, it's not. It's also another coniferous tree. This one here is a white spruce tree. I can't grab pine needles from it, but you can actually see pine needles that are there year round, and the bark kind of looks like an alligator sort of skin, and it is not good for tapping because it is a spruce tree. Is this a maple tree? No, this isn't a maple tree. This is a hemlock tree. You can kind of tell by the very rough bark and the kind of, again, looks like alligator bark. This is, again, a coniferous tree. It keeps its needles all time. Actually, fun fact about hemlock tree is it's kind of like cedar when you can use it for making docks or planking for decks and stuff. It's very resilient to water. It likes to be submerged underwater. It's a great tree for that sort of construction, and it's really, really hard softwood tree. Is this a maple tree? No, this is a balsam tree, and you can tell by this is a balsam tree because they traditionally grow really tall and very spindly, kind of like poles. And if you look at the needles, they kind of look like this. Well, they look exactly like this because this is from a balsam tree. And if you look at the bottom, it's got the little sap pockets inside, which as a child, I used to poke the end of them, get them covered in sap, and then race them down the creek. That's pretty cool. Is this a maple tree? Kind of looks like a maple tree. It's been mistaken for a maple tree a couple times. This is actually an ash tree, and you can tell that this is an ash tree by the fact it's usually dead. In North America right now, there's a bug going around killing all the ash trees. It's the emerald ash borer. It's a bug from China, and it's killing all of the North American ash trees. But this is what the bark looks like, and it does leaf out in the spring, but it ain't spring yet. Is this a maple tree? This is not a maple tree. This is a poplar tree. This is a kind of a really good tree for making trim and baseboard, and something you want really straight because they traditionally grow really straight. The color of the wood is very white, and it's great for making that sort of like cabinetry and door frames and stuff like that. Anything that you want straight and you want kind of a tight grain and you want very few knots. This is a poplar tree, not a maple. Is this a maple tree? No. This is an apple tree or a crab apple tree, and this one you can kind of tell it's an apple tree because there's apples on it in the summertime, and it kind of usually grows a little crooked. But there, apple tree, not a maple. Is this a maple tree? Matter of fact, no, it's not a maple tree. This is an elm tree, and you can tell by an elm tree based on the bark, and usually has a leaf that kind of looks like this, kind of like a diamond shaped, and you can also tell them by all of them are dead, and they're standing and they've got no bark on them. And the reason why, because in the 70s, what happens with Dutch elm disease kind of wiped them all out. There was actually a bounty on elm trees back in the day when they actually paid you to cut them down. I think they would give you like $5 or something like that per stump. They would come and mark them and pay you $5 to knock them down. And you had to burn them like in place because they were trying to stem the spread of the Dutch elm disease. It didn't work, although some of the elm trees did survive, and you can still see some standing today. Is this a maple tree? No, this isn't a maple tree. This is a yellow birch. You can usually tell by the paper-like bark on it, and it leaves out in the springtime. The thing is with the birch, you can actually tap it to make birch syrup, although it doesn't have as much sugar in the sap. So if you only have birch, you can actually make sap or birch syrup, but it won't be as tasty. You can tell by the fur. This is also good for fire starter, and it's a decent firewood if that's all you got. I know a lot of the eastern provinces in Canada use exclusively birch to burn, that and softwood trees. Is this a maple tree? No, this isn't a maple tree. It does look like a coniferous tree, but it's not. It's in fact a cherry tree. This is how you can tell. It's very, very rough bark, but it leaves out in the springtime. So these are well sought after for cabinetry makers, any kind of fine furniture makers. This in fact, is a cherry tree. I imagine you can tap this thing and get some sap out of it, but it's not ideal for making maple syrup because it's cherry. These trees have got to be maple. Well, they're not. These are beech trees, and you can identify beech trees because they're kind of in decline right now. There's a thing called beech bark disease, and what happens is it infects the bark and the tree dies, but it tends to stand up straight until it catastrophically fails. It is a really dangerous tree to cut down because the tops tend to just kind of fall off. Is this a maple tree? Well, you kind of guessed it. The easiest way to tell a maple tree is a maple tree is because it's got buckets on it. Well, they don't usually have buckets on them. You can tell a maple tree by the symbol of the Canadian flag. The maple leaf is generally red in the fall and it's green during the summer, and it looks like there's a maple leaf. I dug one out of the snow. If you guys could see that, it's a poorly shaped one, but that is what a maple leaf looks like. This is the tree you're looking for when you're trying to make maple sugar. And this is what the bark, this is a very mature maple tree, and yeah, so this is the maple tree. This is the star of the show. If you're planning on tapping maple trees and you know in advance, the best way to do it is to go around in the summertime and identify the trees. You can download an app on your phone, and it allows you to take a picture of the leaf, and it'll tell you exactly what kind of tree it is if you're not sure. And then what you can do is you can actually mark the tree so in the wintertime you don't have difficulty finding them. Trust me, it gets easier with time. Almost everyone knows that maple syrup comes from maple trees, and then you can use that maple syrup to top pancakes, waffles. You can put it in drinks, or if you're a true Canadian, you can just, sip it in a shot glass. Few people realize that you can actually take maple syrup and you can boil it down beyond 40-1, and you can turn it into delicious maple sugar. Now, maple sugar is what we're talking about today, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And the good thing about maple sugar is that it can be stored on a shelf, not in a liquid form, for years, possibly decades. In order to get started on our maple sugar journey, we identified the maple tree, and then we drilled a hole in it and we added a metal spile to collect our sap. The natives back in the day actually used wooden spiles or tree bark in order to funnel the sap into buckets, and then they used it either for stews or for cooking. Once the maple sap's collected, you could even drink it straight. After the Europeans arrived with their metal pails and cast iron pot, they were to be able to further boil down the maple sap into the maple syrup we all know today. We chose maple trees because they contain a high amount of sugar, the ratio of sap to water in the tree. And the tree uses this to produce leaves in the spring and feed the cambium layer of the tree. Drilling a couple holes in this living layer of the tree doesn't really hurt the tree. It can recover relatively easy from such a minor damage. Even the hole made in the base of the tree is quickly sealed over within a season once the spile is removed. All right, guys, so we've managed to tap a few dozen trees. Now the real magic begins. Let's head on down to the sugar shack and show you where the real magic begins. Hey guys, are you interested in honing your skills and new things and learning stuff and creating stuff? I know I am. I'm constantly learning new things, and that's why I'm so excited about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes. Skillshare can help make 2022 a year of new learning, connection, and creativity. Maybe you guys are starting out on your journey in photography. Skillshare is an excellent place to start. Maybe you guys are interested in making a career pivot or up-leveling your current skills. Skillshare is a great resource for freelancers and entrepreneurs to help learn new skills to support your growing side hustle or launch into a totally new career with classes like Finding Fulfillment, Using Pivots to Power Your Creative Career by Emma Gannon, and Start Your Own Career with Sonja Razula. One of the great things about Skillshare is it's ad-free, so you can stay in the zone while you're learning your new skill. New premium classes are launched each week, so there's always something new to discover. You know what else is great for the international community of mine? It's now available with subtitles in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and German. The reason why I joined Skillshare is because I like to learn new things, and I like to revisit things I thought I knew because there's always a different angle in learning. So I enrolled to a specific online class. It was a guy called Mint T, and he offers a course on photography, and specifically it was called Outdoor Photography, See, Shoot, Share the Beauty Around You. And I'm reading that from my phone because I was just checking it out. He kind of explores the aspect of architectural photography and how light hits things and how composition works. I used to do that a lot, and I got out of the game. So I just kind of want to have a refresher on learning new skills. It was really cool. And I find if you watch somebody else do it, it kind of reinvigorates your passion for the subject. The first 1,000 people to use this link will get a 1-month trial of Skillshare. What are you guys waiting for? Sign up today. Make 2022 a year of new learning. Here we have our homemade boiler. This thing is made out of an old oil drum. We've cut the top off. We've manufactured a stainless steel vat to house our sap, and that allows us to boil it down to maple syrup. And it's sitting right outside our homemade log cabin, which is made from dead standing pines that were harvested right on this property. So we're using all of nature's gifts in order to produce something really tasty. All right, so now that we've evaporated all or most of the water out of the sap, we have another batch going on here. It's kind of like a continuous process throughout the springtime. As we collect our sap, we put it in our vat and we evaporate it. But once we get to the stage where we've evaporated most of the water, we kind of have the consistency of maple syrup, which you traditionally see, you know, on the shelves of your grocery store. It's stuff that coats your pancakes and whatnot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our maple syrup and we're going to boil it down even further. We're going for maple sugar. So we're gonna take pretty much all of the water out of this material, and it's gonna be left with something that we can put on our shelves in a granulated form, and then we can use it for cooking and baking and putting in your coffee. And what's really cool about it, I'll show you a little bit later, but there's a surprise at the end. What do you think, Don? What are we at? Right now we're at maple syrup, looks like.
Yeah, so we've got to evaporate it down quite a lot yet.
You think so?
Well, somewhat anyways.
Yeah, we don't
it's pretty liquid right now.
It is liquid. So it's probably, you boil this stuff down, this is your maple syrup, this is what it looks like pretty much. It might be boil it down a little further to get fully maple syrup, but that looks decent. So let's get this boiling and get more of the water taken out. Maple sugar is made when the maple sap gets to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit above the boiling point of water, or 25 to 30 degrees Celsius above the boiling temperature of water. So like 130 degrees Celsius is the temperature you want to aim for when you're making maple sugar. I'm further reducing my maple syrup using a turkey fryer and a propane tank. And that allows me to control the heat a little bit more precisely, because making sugar is a very technical process. A lot can go wrong. It can turn to like burnt crisp. It can turn to yeah, fire. Anyways, it's a delicate process, so we're gonna watch this very closely. So we're looking for 125.
125 to 130. I thought you said 25 to 30 level.
So if we take it off and stir it, it should turn into sugar, because you break it up. Now that I have the maple syrup in a smaller pot, it's more of a controlled process, and we can prevent it from burning and boiling over the edge. It's really important to watch it at this point, because you're watching for a specific number on the thermometer in order to actually make our maple sugar. If it goes beyond that temperature, it boils over and turns into like a burnt mess, and that's not what we want. So we got to watch it really carefully. We're currently at 106 Celsius. We're aiming for about 125, 130 Celsius, and then we take it off and we shake it up. As we boil this stuff down even further, we're slightly above the boiling temperature of water. We're actually at 107 Celsius, and as you guys can see, the bubbles are rising to the top, and we have to keep constantly moving it in case it boils over. We don't want it to boil over because it turns into like a sticky, hot mess. Our temperature in mind, what we have is about 125 degrees Celsius, and then we have to take it off very quickly and start stirring it very quickly in order to make our crystallized sugar. Oh, it's getting exciting. It's 107 Celsius.
107. Too far to go.
She's close. You got your fireproof gloves on?
No. Hopefully.
She's looks like she's bubbling up pretty good there. We want to keep her moving because we're going to try to make sure she doesn't boil over. This is the critical stage at this point. It looks a little... Hey, well, it's not done yet. It just turned off. Hang on. And we're back. That turkey fryer has a safety setting on it that only allows you to have it on for a certain amount of time, and it shuts off, which it's probably a good safety feature. So we dropped a degree. We're at 106. We're still boiling. We're making sure our bubbles don't go over the edge. She's getting really bubbly. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. What do you think, Don?
It's looking good.
The suspense is killing me. 114, Don, 114. You ready? This is exciting. 114.
It's getting grittier on the bottom.
Grittier? You feel grittiness on the bottom?
Yeah, kind of like granules.
Well, that's what we want. We want the granules. We want to keep it moving because we don't want to burn to the bottom or go over the top of the edge. 115, 115. All right, take it off. Okay. And grab the camera. When you're on your final boil of your maple sugar, it's important to monitor the temperature. Now, when we started doing this final boil, we had the Napoleon temperature probe inside. We carefully monitored it. We took it off a little bit early the first time, but that's okay because what you do is you put it back on and you heat it back up. In this case, the ideal temperature was about 130 degrees Celsius. And then once that came off the heat, we were able to stir it quickly, and you kind of feel it out that way. But what the great thing about being outdoors is it seems to dissipate its humidity quicker, because that's the goal, is to get rid of all of the moisture in your sugar in order to granulate the sugar. Because if there's too much moisture, when you stir it up, what happens is it clumps up into chunks, and you don't really want that. You want that granulated. I found that once you took it off of the heat and you put it in the snow and you stirred it quickly, you were able to get the granulated sugar that you wanted to achieve. It required a lot of focus during the actual creation of the maple sugar, so there wasn't much talking, and that's why I'm talking now. You trying to get done? All right, it's time to taste the creation we just made. This came from a living tree. It's still warm. These are the granulated little chunks of maple sugar. So it's still warm. It's fresh. It's brand new granulated maple sugar. Oh, that's nice. That's good stuff.
Oh, like maple candy.
Is it?
Yep.
It doesn't have an overpowering taste. It's kind of like, it's subtle. It's a subtle sugary taste. It's got like a maple undertones. What's great about this stuff is it's a substitute for regular cane sugar. You can use it in your coffee. You can use it in like baking. You can use it as a sweetener, and it's all natural, and you can create it yourself using nothing but a tree in evaporation, which is really cool. Are you guys like hiding in the bushes or what?
We're hanging out in the cabin.
All right. Well, you guys want to try this?
Yeah.
Try this, Lena? What do you think?
Take a big bite and see what it is. Oh, that's a big bite.
A maple syrup candy.
Is it good? Does it taste like sugar? Just like sugar. Just like pure sugar.
Is it good? Yeah. Mommy wants to try a bite. Look at this big one here. We'll save all the good granulated stuff for baking. We'll eat the stick together stuff like candy. Delicious. Way better than store-bought.
So, Lena, where does that come from?
Trees.
Trees. Yeah. What kind of trees?
Maple syrup trees.
Nice. Maple syrup trees. There you go. Nice. You gonna
I'm
have
gonna
that?
get another.
You're gonna grab another piece?
You want
Okay.
another piece? All right, small one. Oh yeah, nice and small.
It's good.
What you playing with that pot? You're gonna take that one home or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit in front of the TV and Just pick through the lumps and
Pick the clinkers out, right? You gotta
Yeah.
get. You can't have the clinkers for bacon.
be just like candy.
Look at that. That's like that's probably gotta be 2-3 pounds of sugar. So now that we've crystallized the maple syrup into sugar, it's much more convenient to store for a long term. You can put it in a plastic bag or even a paper bag, stick it on the shelf, and it in theory would last forever because there is no liquid in it. Have rations or something like that and you wanted to store it long term, you can put it in your pocket. You don't have to worry about a glass jar breaking, or even a plastic jar for that matter. There's one more thing that most even maple syrup experts don't know, is you can actually take the crystallized maple sugar, add a little bit of water, put it on some heat, and you can boil it back down to maple syrup and put it back on your pancakes. And I think if you add a little bit more water, you could probably bring it back down to sap and mainline it into a sick tree and bring it back to life. Well, I'm just guessing there, but it's possible, maybe. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and join me on the next one. Oh, like my teeth are gonna fall out. That's good. Oh my. There's no sleeping tonight. Oh. I just gotta finish this bowl. I can't do it. Oh, I want to. Oh, that stuff's crazy good. Sugar.